Guys, this is TaunaMTG. Today we have all the commander updates that have been announced. We've got some big changes to the bracket system, some game changes that have come off, and overall kind of just clarifying, a whole bunch of different stuff to do with the bracket system to help people be able to use it to get the best games possible. So we're going over all of these changes that were announced today by the commander format panel, which my friend Attack on Cardboard is on, and it's absolutely incredible to be able to discuss this with someone who's on the panel. I love it. It's so good. And we're also going to be talking about some changes that they looked at potentially making for the future. Before we do get into that, make sure you guys subscribe. We're trying to hit 25,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're falling a little bit behind. We've only got 3,400 to go or something like that. So if you guys could subscribe, that would be absolutely huge to try and get us to that goal by the end of the year. So the commander brackets, overall, they consider the commander brackets a success. While they're not perfect, they are very helpful to help people get into games that are around the same level. Obviously, there's some room for improvement, right? And, better defined intent for each of the brackets is a huge one there. They've got a couple things that were less clear, no early game combos. What do you consider early game, etc. Or few tutors, like what is a tutor and stuff too as well. And smoothing out the brackets so that not everyone is a bracket 3. So smoothing it out so some are more clearly defined as bracket 4, some are more clearly defined as bracket 2, etc. And also just tweaking the game changes and the philosophy behind them as well. So the redefined brackets here, they want to set better expectations for the game, including the deck's contents, the type of win cons, and the gameplay, including setting a roughly how many turns you'll be expected to play at that bracket. Keep in mind, again, this is not all hard and fast rules. They're clearly more clearer defined now. However, a whole bunch of the bracket system comes down to people coming to the table with, the intent of actually following the bracket system rather than trying to manipulate it to their own because they're power gaming or whatever. They also remove the tutor restrictions and instead rely more on game changes for the more efficient tutors. So there's no more few tutors. There's no more, tutor maximums or anything like that. It is literally the tutors that are on the game changes. Those are the most powerful ones. But there are some that aren't as powerful that are okay in a whole bunch of different brackets. They found that, defining exactly what a tutor is as well. Do you count land tutors? Do you count, to have to tutor to the top of your deck, into your hand, etc. is a bit more, difficult. So, because they vary in such power levels, right? So kind of removing that restriction is a good idea in my opinion. So here are the new brackets, or at least, the newly defined kind of brackets here. And you'll see that each of them has a rough turns to win. So exhibition here is your, fun memey decks. Keep in mind, they specifically have down here that exceptions can be made for highly thematic cards. So, if you've got a Bolas, Nicol Bolas based deck and you include Bolas Citadel in it, if you discuss that with your, your table beforehand, most of the time they're going to be okay with it. So core, they also removed, because core was previously where they said, this is the pre-con section. They removed that because of the fact that pre-cons just vary so much nowadays. If you compare the Edge of Eternity's pre-cons to, some of the previous pre-cons, the edge ones are incredibly powerful. I think that some of them can definitely win by, turn 6 kind of thing. So they removed that there. However, they did kind of keep it, no 2-card combos, etc. And then they've got upgraded here, which is the one that, most people I think are playing at, or at least I'm definitely playing at. And it's still roughly the same, right? They do say specifically, no 2-card combos before turn 6. And I do like as well this part where they said, win conditions can be played from hand in one turn, usually because of steadily accrued resources. I like that idea because that kind of, more clearly defines, with that deck, you can win in one turn thanks to, you slowly having built up your board. Optimized here, they also more clearly defined between bracket 4 and 5, I think, which is great because, bracket 4 here is talking about when you could potentially win by, as opposed to bracket 5, which is CEDH, which is can win literally turn one kind of thing. So these are the, the new brackets. I am a big fan of them. I think that they're great, that they've, more clearly defined what people expect from them, which is what these are to help with. Like, they're meant to help with those game expectations and stuff, and the intent behind the decks that people are building for them. All right, now they did remove a whole bunch of game changes as well. So these ones here are 4 different ones: Expropriate, Ginger Taxes, Core Augur, Sway of the Stars, and Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger. So these ones were removed because they are very expensive, right? Like, mana-wise, they are very expensive to get out and stuff. Obviously, there's ways to be able to cheat them out earlier and stuff like that, but then your deck's more kind of aimed around that. But these are like, the game-ending cards that are expensive to kind of, play and get out. So they aren't quite as kind of, game changing. They are game changing, but the amount of mana that you need to pump into them to be able to do it is incredible. So, because they're redefining what they think should be roughly a game changer to kind of clear up the list and make it more clear that, hey, if this card does this, then it's a game changer. And then the other ones here that were removed, ones that were only game changers because of being powerful commanders, right? Like, Urza in my Tails deck, for example. Urza in my Tails deck is not quite as insanely powerful, while as an actual commander, he's, people are going to expect, like, incredible stacks and, all that kind of really frustrating stuff from it. But all the way, like, all of these ones are ones that were mostly just game changers because of the fact that they are very powerful commanders. Keep in mind, again, if they, make these changes and then they don't go well or something like that, then we can let them know and they will take into account the feedback. All right, and then the final 2 here were Deflecting SWAT and Food Chain. They removed these ones just for various different reasons. Deflecting SWAT because, it's powerful, but is quite restricted as compared to, like, Fierce Guardianship or something like that. And then Food Chain just because it enables combos and stuff. What was the exact wording that they used there? Like, it enables combos and everything like that, but it's a combo card that it doesn't risk kind of causing trouble in lower brackets or anything by being unrestricted, like not a game changer. All right, so some other discussions that they did have were potentially banning Rhystic Study and Thassa's Oracle for various different reasons. Both are just incredibly powerful cards. Rhystic Study, is quite iconic to both CEDH and just, Commander in general. So they were discussing potentially banning that, but, keeping it there for now just because of, how iconic I think it is what they're more talking towards. But it is interesting that they're kind of considering potentially banning it. And then the other one here was Thassa's Oracle because of, the combos with Thassa's Oracle and stuff. Obviously, the Game Changers is the tool that they use to kind of restrict it more. But it is like, something that kind of have there just in case they do want to potentially ban it in the future as well. They also talked about potentially adding a bracket between 2-3 or 4-5 to kind of, make more area for things. I think a bracket between 2-3 would be fine. 4-5 I don't think is necessary, but 2-3 I think would be good. But then also changes like, all the discussions that we've had previously about it. And then they also talked about this, which is the hybrid mana cost. So I do think that this change will happen. I think that they talked about it as a potential thing that happened, but I do think that it is a change that will end up happening. So changing this, essentially what they do is they make each one, so say a green-white hybrid here, like Rise the Redeemed, you can have him either go into a green deck or a white deck, mono green or mono white deck, and it's fine. Because, you can cast him for just green mana. What they said specifically was that when they design these cards, they do design them around either being being restricted by, just being if it was a mono green card or a mono white card. So I think that that's fine. Personally, I think it's a discussion that I've had for quite a while. So Rise would be fine. Deathrite Shaman would not be able to go into a green or black deck because of the fact that in its mana down here, it does have, a black pip or a green pip. So you wouldn't be able to do that one. And then they also talk about Beseech the Queen, for example, because of the fact that it's got hybrid black or colorless, it would be allowed in any deck, right? Because it could go into any colorless deck then. So, you know, they've discussed a few different things here. They're not set. They haven't said, hey, yes, we're going to do that. But I do think that this is a change that would easily be great. And I do think it's a change that will end up happening. But, you know, maybe you guys disagree with me. Let me know. But that's it for today, guys. Let me know what you guys think about all this. And please, please, please subscribe. We're trying to hit that goal. Have a great day and goodbye.